Namaste, family. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Come on into this dimension. And I'm so excited today because I have a super special guest here that I just have been wanting to get on the channel for a while. And I have her here today. This is Lightstar. Can't even hold back my excitement. I'm so excited to have you here. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Seriously, thank you. Thank you so much. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me, inviting me onto your channel, and hello to everybody out there as well. Love you guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, are so inspiring, I think, to so many on YouTube with all of the things that you have put out. Actually, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and read your bio really quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if anyone doesn't know Lightstar, I highly suggest you go and subscribe to her channel, follow her work. She's full of Starseed activations that just seem to come out creatively all the time. And her bio says, greetings, I am Lightstar. It's time to awaken your spiritual gifts and remember who you are. I resonate with the name of Lightstar, and I am pioneering internationally acclaimed high-frequency attunement artist, celestial channel, starseed ambassador who is passionately committed to guiding lightworkers, starseeds, and spiritual seekers to discover the truth of their soul. My groundbreaking artwork and oracle cards are infused with sacred color rays and light codes that transmit pure divine inspiration and help those who are feeling disconnected from their higher guidance to realign with their soul, be inspired, and recall their destiny path. And I have to tell you, one thing that I love about you is your website is fabulous.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like when you were reading that, I was like, who's that? God, she sounds awesome. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think I've had a couple comments on my website about it being eye candy. That's somebody's term, and I thought it was pretty appropriate because, yeah, it's like an explosion of color on my website. So I created all of that. So it took a long time designing that, just creating it. I just really wanted it to be an activation in of itself.
If you don't mind, I'll just kind of show everybody really quick
what
I'm talking about, because
here it is.
It's just, I mean, even when I was designing my website, you know how you can give references to people's sites that you like to be like, well, I kind of want something like this. Yours was one that I totally was like, just check out our site, just kind of take a glance over it, because this is all your original artwork that's on here, right?
Yeah, everything on there is, I mean, I did all the images, the graphics, the design and all that stuff too, but most of it is based upon my images. So yeah. It's definitely a very, very powerfully colorful, activating type of website. And that's kind of what I wanted. I mean, I guess it just came out that way, but I was like, rather than me just doing white, I just went for the whole color situation.
I absolutely love this white swan. 5 salvation.
Oh my gosh, that's so powerful, and that took me quite some time to create. But that some people probably wonder why I called it that. I mean, I talk about that in the video, but that actually the name came to me in a dream after I finished the project, Solfeggio Activations. And I went to bed and I was like, what am I going to name this project, right? And I had a dream of my mom who's passed over now. And in that dream, she literally was giving me this white swan. And she was saying like, here, and it was just this big upgrade. And it seemed like she was so proud of what I did that I just felt like I woke up and I went, that's it, white swan, and 555, because all the tracks on there are 5 minutes, 55 seconds. So it's an activation every track that you get.
Wow.
Very healing. all solfeggio, high frequency. Every layer in that is attuned to a specific frequency. So all the solfeggio tones, or at least 7 of them, and they're every layer, all my toning, every layer in those things are all attuned to that specific frequency. So it's really high level stuff. And that took me a while to do. So yeah, it's a lot of work.
I love it so much. When I saw you put this out, I felt the connections immediately to the Cygnus system.
Oh, yeah. Because of the swan. Well, that makes total sense. That absolutely makes sense.
And that calls me in because I feel really aligned to that star system. I feel it's carrying all the indigo templates. So yeah.
Absolutely. God, I just got chills when you were saying that. So yeah, that's very powerful. I hadn't even like connected the two of that specific, but that would make sense.
Yeah, it's so incredible. I tell you, it's just really inspirational, all the stuff that you do. That was one thing I know and for everyone watching, we're gonna dive into some Starseed topics. I'll stop my screen share. Oh, but wait a minute. What is this here? You have a Cosmic Awakening.
Oh, yes. That is every year we have this Cosmic Awakening for the last 5 years, I believe it is. And it's in Sedona. So if anyone wants to come out here for that, it's April 22nd, 23rd. David Icke is going to be speaking. We have a couple of Frank Jacob, Gene Nolan, lots of other speakers. There's actually been some added ones on here too that I have to update the flyer. So you can check that out too at Sedona CosmicAwakening.com. You can register for that because that's just around the corner here in Sedona.
It really is. That looks like a lot of fun. You do have a lot of David Icke. That's a big one.
Yeah, we've had different speakers every year. Just depends on the year, but we got a couple of Paul Wallace from Gaia and just a bunch of different things. There's some others on there too, so that's going to be a fun event.
I can't wait to hear about that. I'm not sure if I can make it to that event specifically, but I think that will be so awesome.
Yeah, these are great. It's kind of like a family reunion because a lot of the Starseeds and people like that end up going, and everyone just has a really great time, and everyone just gets to meet each other, and it's a really great experience to connect, so as well as hearing all the content that we're all going to be sharing too.
Right.
So yeah, it's so weird to see my website scrolling in front of me.
Your website is awesome, girl. And all of the detailed artwork that goes into your decks, I mean, that's all from you, like your channel.
The mock-ups, I created a lot of the mock-ups of the deck before they came out. Now we have them because they're finally here and finally shipping and finally there. But I created some mock-ups beforehand, the box and all that stuff. So it's but it's such a powerful, the second edition of my Magical Dimensions, and also my newest edition or new Oracle deck, Celestial Frequencies. That one is wow. That's like a lot of starseeds because there's 12 galactic images or galactic beings in that deck. So it's heavily starseed focused. As well as I've got codes in there, healing codes.
And which one is that?
That's that one right there, the Celestial Frequencies. Yeah, the green one with that's Ascended Master Hilarion, my rendition of him. That's what's on the front. So we had a masculine energy for this one, and then the feminine energy for the second edition. So, but it's got a lot of codes and symbols and glyphs and light language, especially in that second edition. So highly activating.
Wow. Yeah. And that's what we need, right? We need more starseed attunement.
Yeah, I know. Right? It takes about 5 years for me to create a deck. So it takes a while, but I had heard that a lot of people were looking for starseed decks. They wanted starseed decks. So I really started that many, many years ago. And it's got a lot of other things in it too, but it does have 12 master galactic images in there that help people to attune to these different galactic energies. And there's full color books that come with it. So anyway, I have the box here. So this is kind of what it looks like here. And then that's the box. And then the what's cool about it though is that I've mixed all of mine together. So it's like this. Okay. So the Celestial Frequencies have the gold, like a foiling effect on the back. And then the Magical Dimension second edition have like a silver foil. And I've mixed the two together. So now I've got 99 the completion number 99 in this. These cards have, 99, but 44 in one and 55 in the other, because I've upgraded and added 11 new cards to the magical dimension. So they're really powerful. These cards are like insanely accurate. They just have so much energy and there's so much going on in every one of them. It's like crazy. But a lot of them, like I said, have the codes and the symbols. Like this one's just, Telos. It's the magnetism, but it's Telos. And it has all the glyphs and the light language and activation. I mean, I could spend all day on that, but I probably don't want to go on about it. But it's so powerful.
I mean, I would love to hear about some of your creation processes, honestly, because what you're doing is advanced art. It's advanced expression of yourself and creativity. I think there's a lot of people that sometimes get the vision or the inspiration to want to make their own tarot deck or to do something like that, but they don't know where to start. Or
yeah, it's definitely a process. It's not like a book. Okay. Books are so much easier because you don't have boxes and cards, and it's a lot more involved with doing an oracle deck for sure. But one thing you were mentioning about some of the experiences about creating it, though, I have to say, I probably have I don't know if it's really that unique, but I think it's kind of cool and unique, is that the way that some of these images come to me, okay, is really out there, okay? It's like, I mean, I can give you so many examples, but I'm just going to give you one example of this. And since I have this card right on the front, I already showed it, I'm going to talk. This particular card, okay, came to me from an experience I had with my beloved Stands with Bear. He was having these, okay, we all know we get these high-pitched tones that come in the ear, like high pitch. His was going in, it was like all day, all night. It was just like, God, this is so strong. Like, what is going on here? And I remember sitting him down and I went, let's just see where it's coming from. So we sat down and I led him through a guided visualization to trace where that, tone was coming from. And he went, you'd think, could be coming from anywhere. But basically we were going down into the earth, and we actually finally pinpointed it to an area having to do with Telos, okay, and the crystals and Telos. And so when it came out of it, I described what I saw. I described what he's describing what he saw. He got the whole download of what it was supposed to happen in his, and it stopped. The ears stopped afterwards. And so that image came from this, because this was the depiction of what I saw, and then we conferred. And then, so that's one way that my images come. Another way is when I created Valion, the Wisdom Keeper. Okay, that image came to me when I have this thing where the Galactics will literally line up to have their image or to be portrayed, especially when I was doing the 12 galactic images. They would literally line up, and that's how they would come to me. And that's why they would come to me. A lot of people have a lot of like abduction experiences or visitations or whatever they have. And mine was for a specific purpose. So they would come, show up. I'd have these experiences. I want to be drawn. I want to be created. I'd like to help people. I want to be shown. And so they do that, and then they're gone. So it's not like I have these recurring, like long relationships with every single one of them. They're really just coming in almost like a commission that you do with somebody here on Earth for a picture or an image. And so you're working with them for the time, and then you move on. Well, that's kind of what happened with Valion, the Wisdom Keeper. The dragon I was creating one image, and this dragon came in during the day, conscious waking state. And I saw this dragon energy, and I felt, and I was tuning in, just checking to make sure it's like a good dragon, what's going on there with the dragons. And as soon as I got that download, the dragon had to like step forward and kind of push whatever I was doing out of the way, because he was like, the dragon energy needs to come in now. We need to do this. There needs to be initiations, and there's people that are going to be activated from this. And I need this to happen. Not pushy, but just, okay, the time is now to bring some of the ancient dragon energy to the forefront, and to over, it's kind of like, because he's a really ancient old dragon, almost like a childlike dragon though, but he's kind of a lot older dragon. So you can see that when you see the image of him. And so I have all these weird ways that these things come to me, and it's fascinating. It's like, it just happens and I just go with it. And so that's how it sort of the creation process happens. I even have one that's Gift of the Mer People. And before I created that, I had a major mermaid dream. And I really am not like that attuned to mermaids. I mean, I love them and stuff, but I don't feel as like I'm a mermaid or something. But I had a mermaid dream. And in that dream, I was literally I had two mermaids swimming around me, and they actually gave me my mermaid name. Like, they gave me a mermaid name. And I was like, oh, well, I woke up and I thought, oh, wow, that's so beautiful. And then after that, 2 days later, it's like 2 days later, for a couple of days, everywhere I went, someone was starting to talk about mermaids. And I was like, okay, you guys want your picture done. I get it, So sometimes I have to be pushed or hit over the head with it. Like, okay, it's time. We need this. But that's how it happens. So it's a little different maybe than the average people, but that's how it happens for me. And it's just kind of fun and exciting. And I love it, but that's what it's not just for me is the thing. It's really I'm just a vessel here, but it's actually for everyone else. Like, everything I do, everything I create is for everybody out there, everyone else, so that's kind of that's what I do. That's what I like to do, is to create it for the world, for humanity.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why I resonate with you so much, is because I feel too that I am a galactic ambassador.
Absolutely.
I feel affiliated to certain nations. Like, I feel like I'm contracted on some level to tell their story, to transmit the messages that they tell me to transmit. And also I've expressed myself a lot through like videography and theatrical performances.
Oh, and I love, you know what? I saw your Medusa video and I was like, whoa, that was powerful. And to be honest, I'd love to watch other people's stuff, but I don't have the time to do a lot of watching it. But that one came across like really strong, and it was so powerful. You did such a beautiful job on that.
Oh
I mean,
God.
yes, like I said, the whole artistic, creative, ability that you have with that was really fabulous. So I highly recommend that. That was super fun to watch. And it was very informative, I think, for a lot of people, that have a certain, something in their head about what the whole story of Medusa is, and it changed it a little bit for thinking a little bit more on a deeper level, than I think that what we think of on the surface. So it was a really wonderful job. I love that.
Thank you so much.
You did a great job on that. And I'm sure there's other videos that you have also. I haven't watched all of them, but that one just happened to come across I don't even know how I think after we talked, it was like right after that it came across, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, that piece, for me, it's about my light language, because you speak light language. Mine is like linguistic expression. It's poetry.
Yes.
It's trying to kind of define those dimensions and aspects through making the words sound like art.
Yes. Yeah. And that's interesting, because you have some people have this, and I think that they're just downloads, or they just are born with it too, is just a certain type of vocabulary. And it's, I'd say it's like a higher dimensional vocabulary, and that you have that stream in order to bring it down. And, some of the words, especially in some of the things that you do, are activations in themselves, and it's really powerful to hear it, and to hear you speak in some of the things, and especially, writing, because I think you have it with writing, with video, and with vocabulary.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for honoring my gifts as well. Like, my gosh, I just feel such an alignment with you, because I think we're both pioneering certain aspects of our creativity and our authenticity. And like you said, it's for everyone else. Like these are gifts
Yeah.
of activation to anchor in the galactic and cosmic realms. And so like having that said though, I've been so curious about, because of all of the information you receive, because of all of your expression of this stuff, what is your insight of cosmic history? What is your insight of what starseed consciousness is, and how do you communicate with it? Like, how do you perceive it? I think that's
Yeah.
probably one of the main questions I get all the time is, I mean, you tell someone what their origins are and then they're like, okay, that's great, but how do I connect? Like, what's the process here?
Yeah. I think with the galactic, like I said, I think we were talking about this earlier, where for me, it literally wasn't until I was in my late 30s, early 40s before I actually started to perceive the starseed realms. And some of it came through, I know there was a class that I was interested in. I found myself gravitating towards just a short little class. And I took, and that was kind of had some of the starseed content. And that was my first really experience of it in this reality. I mean, like I said, I've had other experiences in my youth, but I wasn't aware of it. It's like it wasn't really in my consciousness or awareness of it until I started to, something just sparked. But I was also going through a time, and I've talked about this a lot of times on either channel or other radio shows or something about my past and how I was going through like what I call, some people call it the dark night of the soul, but I actually called it the Kundalini quest of the soul, because it's really more about a shift and a change in perceptions and changes in your life that happen when those things happen. And they're all always a good thing. It's just that it feels really heavy and like, what am I going to do? And so I was going through the whole experience like that. And that really opened me up. So I started to dive into some of this galactic content, but not really about the galactic history initially, because I have to tell you, I may be a little different than some of the people. There's a lot of people that go into the galactic history, and we need those people to do that, such as yourself. There's a lot of other people that do that too. But and maybe because in my youth, when I went to school, I hated history. Okay. It was my least favorite subject besides math. Okay. But I couldn't figure out like, why did I hate history so much? And why did I just like memorize what I needed to in college and then just forget it all? Is because now I realize none of it was right. What we were learning, what we're taught. And so I think at a young age, you really just feel that like something's wrong with this. It doesn't feel right. This doesn't even seem right. Or some of us even have those memories that, no, that's not the way it happened. I was there, or, from past lives or something. So there's that of just not really feeling like our history is correct in the first place, made me not really want to be interested in history. And so the galactic history, I think, is interesting and it's fascinating. But I also have to say that we have to be really discerning with it too, because there's a lot of information out there that isn't correct either. Yeah. So you have to be, I think it's more than just the history, in other words, but it's important to know it and to see it. But from my perspective of it, when have we not been at war, even galactically, on this planet, in other dimensions? It seems like there's just always a war going on in some way, shape, or form. And this galactic war history with the Lyran wars, with the, beyond that, previous to the Orion wars and all the way back to the electric wars and the angelic wars and all these different wars. And it's like you kind of just wonder, are we, because some people are like, oh, the new earth, and we're going to be like all like, I don't know if our experience here is that. I think our experience seems to be we have this like, duality going on, like every which way we turn. So the only way we really can get stuff is in here, inside of ourselves, and what feels true to you, what feels right to you. And although I'm not saying don't listen to people, just saying like, use your own discernment with it and, go within. So I think that because the galactic history can get kind of like, wow, there's so much, but you have to realize that we're not the only ones that have been here on this planet. And we are, there's people that have come to this planet way before that we were even here. And so if we think that we're the only ones and that this is it and that's all there is, and even just however long that history says, even the galactic history, it's probably way millennia of time, that it's been linear time, that it's been here. And that we've had galactic, races here way before us. But not to discount the fact that we're here now and we're doing it too, but we also have other races here as well. So, when I tune in and get, like I said, my galactic consciousness opened up just by perceiving some of this other content that was coming in, that literally was like an alarm clock going off. So when it happens, and I like to say this, it's from a movie, but it fits here. And I can't remember the name of the movie, but you know what I'm talking about. There's a line that says, when you know. Okay. It's from Jerry Maguire. Okay. Jerry Maguire. There's a line in there. When you know. Okay. And that's kind of when light bulb goes off. When you're ready to open up, you're ready to awaken, because you can't not do it. It's sort of like everything opens up in that direction.
Yeah.
And everything is set before you. All the synchronicities start happening to where you're ready to open up to that galactic content or information. And I also feel too that it's not just the galactic that we awaken to, because I tend to run on 3 streams, mainly galactic, angelic, and elemental. And in those 3 genres, we're opening up to ourselves, different aspects of ourselves, to those different threads. Some of us actually stream more on one than the other, and some of us have a blend of all 3. But you're generally working on one of those streams at some point in your life. And then there may be a time where you're like super interested in the galactic and open up to everything there is to know and learning. And then there's a time where you integrate that, and then you shift into something else starts coming in, like your angelic side or angelic aspects start coming forth, and you start integrating those. So I think that's kind of the way we're all on different avenues, different journeys of integration of all 3 of these streams. And so, I also do, Starseed origins readings and help people to understand who they are. But I'm also looking at that a little differently, the way I do it, because I know you do it through astrology and things like that. I actually have a different way of looking at those things. And mine is just from, I have an ability to look at the DNA, and I'm looking straight at the DNA, like literally. And I'm reading information in there that stays within the consciousness, and it stays within all of us. Because if you have DNA, anything that's living has DNA in it, it's going to have all the data and all the codes and everything that's in there. And that also opens up to the Akashic records as you expand that and go out. So I think it's important to have that kind of consciousness to open up to who you are. It helps you. And I think like I said, when you're ready to awaken to it. I wasn't really ready until I was mid-40s. So it doesn't have to be at an early age. It can happen at any time, any age. Yeah. It's like the alarm clock goes off and you're like, okay, that's it. No more sleeping.
So how important then do you feel it is for someone to attune to their origin or know their origin? What is it one should do when they feel that they've connected with their origin? And you've kind of gotten to a level, like you said, it's like you're just kind of an ambassador and you're just channeling the messages. So how much of the origin part of it do you feel like is maybe what you're channeling through versus this, I guess, differentiation of celestial identities that are flowing through you? And what should one do then when they kind of come into that origin, and how do they dig deeper within that and start identifying?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think a lot of times you get that's one of the reasons why when I do my own origins readings, I like to, it's not just like, oh, you're Lyran. Because for me, it's a little bit more into, how does that help you? Okay. How does that help you now? And for me, that's looking at life purpose and mission. So I also stream in information about what you're doing in that aspect, what your role is, what your mission is. And if you have multiple different aspects of you, it can really help with if you're not sure what you're doing here on the planet, which sometimes there's people that just don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know what their mission is. They don't know what their life purpose is, or they're not really sure what direction you're supposed to be going in. And that's just the way that I do it. It gets clarification to that. I look at different aspects of what someone is doing in these other roles. And then it helps you to figure that out here. Because not only if you're just knowing what your race is or where you're connected to, and by the way, it's not just one race, we're multidimensional. So we have typically multiple different things, streams we're running. But I think once you open up to that and you dive into that and you start learning and getting it, and then you start to open up to your purposes and these other aspects of you, it helps you with what you're supposed to be doing here. And so, I think the second part of that is just like, well, how do you connect and, how do you integrate that? Well, that's one of the reasons why I have the images that I have for the galactic, beings, so that they can actually help to have the energy around them, whether it be on the wall or whether they just have a small image, whether you can actually start to connect with those and start to open up to them. I suggest people do it one at a time. I don't think it's a great thing to just open up all the channels all at once. You get way overwhelmed. So it's helpful to just kind of tune into one at a time and just kind of focus on that energy. And you can kind of tune in and ask to be shown. Or for me, I think dream time has been really powerful. So I think a lot of us starseeds that dream incessantly and have these really interesting dreams, we can actually communicate with our star family through our dream time. So that's one other way where if you go to sleep at night, before you go to sleep, you want to tune in to your Lyran family or whatnot, you ask that before you go to sleep at night, and then you can either get the information from a dream, or you might get something that comes in the next 3 days after that. But you have to pay attention, to the signs and things around you. So dream time is another way to really connect with your soul family. And then just, if you're really in tune with one specific race that you want to be connected to, and they're not your soul family, it doesn't have to be your soul family. It may also be some, like a race that you're learning from, or that you're getting information from and you're integrating from. And maybe it's like a coworker, connection that you're, almost being adopted by that other race for a little while, and you're being downloaded with some information. So it doesn't always just have to be the family that you are aligned with. A lot of us that do this kind of work with multiple different races, or multiple different streams of the angelic, or even like the elementals, wherever that might be. So those are a couple of different ways I would say to open up visually, by using the artwork, tuning into your dream time. Doing journaling is also another good thing. Like, I don't know if you've heard of like automatic writing, that's how I started out doing my thing, is automatic writing when I was doing channeling. And I think that's really powerful, because if you're something about the stream coming through and then writing it in your handwriting is very powerful. You'll get a lot of answers that way. And even there's another way that's really interesting, is that if you wanted to ask some questions, and you're tuning into your star family, you can actually use your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, use your left hand, use your right hand with a pen. And you write down, like you ask a question, and then you write it down from that non-dominant hand, which actually brings in a whole subconscious. It's like you don't have as much of the barrier of like, oh, I can just write whatever. Here it's like, no, it's working more through your subconscious when you use the non-dominant hand, and you get some really powerful insights that way. So that's kind of a unique way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, it's frustrating a little bit, because you're like wanting to do it, Now, if you're ambidextrous, then it probably doesn't work as great for you. But if the ones that are, you use your non-dominant, you'll you have to go a lot slower because you won't be able to write as fast. But that's good because it slows everything down. And then your subconscious starts to bring in more information. Then you start writing as best you can,
Yeah, definitely.
Drawing too.
Just even as you're saying that, I actually thought of a visualization that I used to do a while ago where it had to do with going to sleep at night, but I would go to sleep and I would visualize a disc around my pineal. And then I'd visualize like a little micro version of myself going on the disc. And I was just standing there, like calling out to the Galactics, like, whoever wants to come forth in dream time tonight, come on in, guys.
That's beautiful. I think we have to be a little bit, we always want to put the highest energies around us, frequencies before we're tuning into any kind of race, because just like us here on the planet, we have some negative humans here, right? Well, we also have some negative vibrating races that are all over the place, right? Now I'm kind of like, I have a different take somewhat on, like, say, the Orions. I know you probably have this, you can understand this, but a lot of people have just instantly they hear Orions and they instantly hear negative, like, oh, they're bad. They're a bad race. It's a bad race. No, and they're all aligned with the dark. And it's like, I tried to do a light language video. I've done a couple of these to share some things and insights about what I call the original Orions, which are the most beautiful beings. They are very heart-centered, very much similar energy to like druids on our planet, if I were to like give the analogy here. And that's the original Orion stream that I'm talking about before we had, the dark forces or the Draco or whatnot to come and sideswipe and kind of take over, as far as I'm concerned. So if you want to think of it this way, with the Star Wars show, or like the different Star Wars series where we have the Sith Lord, where we know that would be like more analogous, or Darth Vader, how he got turned to the dark side, but he was originally a Jedi, a good Jedi, right?
Yeah.
And so those original Orions have kind of that stream. They're more druidic, but they're also more, like the original Jedis before anything happened, before it would go to the dark side. I think the reason why, personally, why did they choose some of the Orions to do that? Because they were really powerful and they were threatened, say like Draco, whatnot, was threatened by that. And I feel that that's part of the reason why they wanted to either enslave them or take over and have them on their side, as an ally. So just as an experience, just in my view of that, where it's just not all of them are super negative, but I'm not saying there aren't, because there's factions of the Orion that are, but then we have to look at, that's why we have to be really discerning before we're connecting to any of these beings. We have to put that, I put a bubble around.
I'm so happy that you touched on that, because I feel like that is something that comes up so often about the Orions, is just questioning that in general. I mean, and if you look at a lot of, again, going back to cosmic history, cosmic warfare, there is so much convolution in that system. And sometimes I just really wonder, like, what is the overall, clearly Orion is an evolutionary system. They're here to forge humanity through, I think, polarity integration.
Yep.
And but at the bigger scheme of things, I wish I could look in the Orion future book. Where is this going?
Where is it going?
Yeah.
And what's the end result? Because what I was, they've bonded with other races to now, as far as the negative faction of it. And so you're kind of almost have these two separate factions of the original Orions, and then these like darker factions that are like, hey, you gave us a bad name, because we're not that. Who's going to win? In other words, in this whole scheme of things, I was assuming that if you look at it from a Star Wars perspective, that, God always wins, and we say it that way, good versus evil. I mean, I suppose in some ways it's always kind of like that, this teeter-totter balance. If we're going to ever get away from duality entirely, I'm not sure about that. And personally, I'm not sure on this realm, because if you think about it, I'm not saying that we won't ascend, and certain people, you ascend beyond that, or you ascend into it, or you actually start to realize that that's what it is. And that's not even what ascension is. It's not all about, I always say this, it's not all about unity for the sake of, we all have to think alike. Okay. We all have to maybe respect alike, where we're respectful of other people's, but not necessarily like all the same. So I think this place has a lot of lessons here on the planet that we all gain. We all came here not just to do our work, do our mission, bring the starseed codes and do the healing work, or be the indigo that breaks down the system. There's jobs that we had come here to do, but we also have things that we are learning along the way. And that does have to do with the duality realm. And so what if our lessons basically, that help us to, hurdle over some of the difficulties and challenges, but would we have those experiences had we not been here and been able to push against that, or have our karmic resolutions with people we need to wrap that up? This is like some people call it the prison planet, but it's also the planet where we have lessons and we can learn and grow.
Yeah.
If we take that away, maybe that's why, in some ways, why God split off, and started to have all these different realms, the different planets, the different races, just because there needed to be some variety here and some, reflection of itself, to be able to have and learn and grow all, and to come all the way back full force into the Godhead eventually. So I think, eventually, I feel like that's sort of the goal of all of us on this planet, no matter who it is, no matter what race it is. Ultimately, I think it is to gather the experiences, and then you move on to the next one, the next one, the next one, until you get to the place where you're fully complete. Maybe it is by ascended, mastership, or whatever the other races call angelic beings, because they do have angels. They just I don't know that they actually call them angels. I know that there's probably different terminology that they use, but like Arcturian angels, or, there's different angelics from these different beings. And they're also, so that means that the beings, the races, are also going through their own ascension. They're just at a different place in their evolution than we are. And we have been that, and we are that, because it's all happening at the same time. So some of our aspects are Pleiadian and Syrian and, Andromedan and all of that. And even beyond this solar system, because I see some people that come, they have gotten readings from me, and I see them as not even from this universe. So they're outside of the solar system, and they may have had experiences here too, but, they're not even from here. And I can relate to that, because that's part of, I've seen that aspect for myself. And then there's parallel lives too, where some people are just, in parallel lives, which I think is kind of similar to that, but outside of this universe.
Yeah.
So if you think about, how starseeds, we're always saying like starseeds always just want to go home. They don't feel like this is their home. And that's why, they just don't feel like this is their home. Like, I just know it, I know that I felt that way. And so if you're starseed, that's something that you'll really feel. But think about if you're not even from this universe and you're here now in incarnation.
That's a
and so it's pretty, it's like, I think that's what explains a lot of times the people that really have trouble integrating on this planet, in a physical body, especially. Maybe you've been in a different universe and you're not even in any form, and you come into this physical body and you're like, whoa.
Yes.
This is heavy.
I've explored that quite a bit with some of my astrological findings, going into the Laniakea systems and all of the super colossal clusters in those systems. And I actually wrote something a while ago trying to define which super colossal clusters I felt were actually seeding from other multi-cosmic systems. And then I got to this blocking point because I was like trying to define this. I only wrote one article on this. That's all I was ever able to put out, but I ran out of language is what happened.
That would be hard for you.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know. I don't even have words for what I'm feeling or describing. And so I can only imagine that a starseed here that incarnated from those systems, not even having a reference point of language or communication to what they're inherently.
Yeah, it's even beyond what you would think of as telepathy. It's even beyond that. So what that is, I don't, it's just a beyond, like what's beyond, how do you express and how would you communicate if you were beyond telepathy? Like, what is that, So I think there's, a lot of different people out there. Not as many, I would say, coming from these other universes, although I think there may be. But it's not as common, I would say, as like seeing Pleiadians or Syrians or Andromedans or even what I call the Guardians. The Guardians are, I don't know, I was bringing in the Guardian stuff before now it's like I've heard of it. But back then when I was like, I would just tuned in and I was like, what's the Guardians? And I've created an image based upon them as well. Really fascinating because they're not even really a race. Is
it on your site?
Yeah, there's a Guardian Sacred Builder is one of the images in my it's on my art. If you have to go to my on your page or you'll have to go into the more where it says more and then go down to art gallery.
Okay.
And that one. And let's see if we can find it because you'll have to scroll down a bit because I got a gallery with a ton of images.
No worries. I'm just curious. I feel very connected to the Guardians as well.
One of the things that the Guardians, while this is loading, the Guardian race, it's like a conglomeration of different races. So it's not necessarily just one of them. So it'll be in this first section. So keep scrolling down, keep scrolling, and there it is. Okay. Guardian Sacred Builder. Now, I'm not saying they all look like this. It's just one of the beings. This was actually based upon one of my custom client images, but I was pulling in his Guardian energy. And so what I get about the Guardians is that they are different races, but they have a common goal, if you will. And they are really what I call, they're actually in charge of the blueprinters group. So if you know, like people know what blueprinters groups are, the Guardians kind of oversee the blueprinters groups, the soul groups that are blueprinting and that kind of things.
So that's like one of the things. Is this like the original angelic blueprint of like the Earth body?
He was coming in from a different race. So it's not like they all look like that or that this is even the original. He's just one of the, let's say, Guardians. If and the best way I can describe this too is one of my favorite movies is the Green Lantern. Okay, so if you remember in the Green Lantern, if you guys have ever seen that first scene where they have like a council that comes up, it's like the council of, and they're in charge of like, the universes or whatever. It's the Guardians are kind of similar to that, where it is like they have certain charge over planetary structures and also, bringing in some of the blueprinters energies and templates and things that people bring down. So they work with a lot of different people in that, but they are different races. So there could be Syrians, there could be Andromedans, there could be beings outside of this galaxy that are included in the Guardian race. But it's a really powerful conglomeration of beings that are here to help. I mean, they're here on the light side of things, but they're here to, in some ways, oversee a lot of things.
This is good to bring up because we hear about the malevolence. Like what's put in our face all the time is the malevolence, what's bad, what's intruder races, predatory races, invader races. But unless you're really, tuning into the starseed egregore of information, we kind of miss out on who are the benevolent beings that
right. And I think there's
preventing warfare.
And we have to keep in mind that even within some of the races, there's some not so, there's factions of Pleiadians that are not overly great, right? They're not their agendas.
Thank you for pointing that out, because that's
Their
what
agenda.
I said too. There's
I mean, we love
even in
Pleiadians.
Yeah.
We love Pleiadians, but they're not all lovey-dovey either. There's a faction of them that are quite nefarious. So we have to be on our guard if in some ways for it. But as you can see, some of that's the Orion. So it's like I said, that's why I depicted him. He looks kind of scary. But to be honest, some of the Orions are literally very intense looking. But yet the original Orion energies, think of the druids, think of the Jedis that are the good Jedis. They may look intense, but they're actually for the good side of things. So I'm always bringing in the positive side of something whenever, even if there is another one. I even have like a Zeta image here somewhere on the bottom of there. I think it's in that same section. And the Zeta one is like also, a lot of Zetas. There it is.
The Alliance. So would these be kind of like Guardians as well then?
Similar, but not the same. The Alliance to me is more, now what I get with the Alliance is that it's really more, as you can see here, a conglomeration, but it's like angelic, elemental, and galactic all working for this. Is, to me, it's kind of on this planet. So I would say they're more focused on, okay, they have a mission of like Earth. Okay, our Earth mission is to assist, with connecting people with, some of the stuff that we've heard about. The positive basis of the Alliance is also some of the working with some of the getting out the dark factions or flushing out some of the negative stuff too, but they're also with connecting. But I get that the Alliance, a little bit more on that, is working for a specific mission, whereas the Guardians that's a lot bigger, like their territory or what they're doing. It kind of involves maybe planets, plural, or even universes, whereas the Alliance, I feel, is just kind of focused on one at the moment. Like their mission might change, or they might have different groups of alliances that are working with different planets. But this is the one I was picking up that kind of just works here. I'm not saying they're the only ones, but that's just a
the other day I was getting downloads that the Guardians were preventing certain like things from happening, like World War III. Like they're preventing, like they're here working on the behalf to stop.
Yeah, some of that. Yeah, because if you think about it, are we going to let another, nuclear war just destroy the entire Earth, or things that are anything that's going to really destroy the Earth? I really feel there are some intervention. Usually we say like it's free will, so they don't intervene. But when it comes to that and things that may explode, the Earth will be exploding or something like that, they are going to have to step in, because they really do not want to have anything like, the planet Lyra being destroyed, to Maldek being destroyed, to this is something that happens, but we don't want that happening to Earth. So I think that everyone's really in agreement that they would intervene when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I have heard though that there were some of these beings that were assisting us with those kinds of things and preventing some catastrophic things to happen, that they actually left this sector of the universe. So they're not actually helping us anymore. But I don't want people to think that, oh, they're gone, no one's helping. No, it was just that one race that decided, you know what, we're kind of done. We've done our thing. We need to move on. So, but there's always, I feel like, going to be other races that will help. And so I feel like, with the spirit, with that one, the Zeta one is really more, I wanted to portray the more curiosity, because this card is called Curiosity in my Oracle deck, because I always see the Zetas as curious beings. Okay. And I'm not going to talk about the ones that, yes, we know that there were some nefarious Zetas doing experiments and doing all sorts of nasty stuff and all that. But there are Zetas that are very that are positively minded. I don't know that they are the highest spiritually beings, okay, because they have done some things to their genetics that has caused them to, and I think they were doing this to try to get ahead, but I think what they did is almost like did that and found that that's not helpful for them spiritually. And so now they're, trying to figure out ways to enhance their spirituality, the positive ones anyway, that isn't going to be damaging to the way that they did before or tried to do it before. So that's thus the curiosity. So that's why they're very curious about our spirituality, because they don't have those kind of emotions that we have and the kind of levels that we have here in humanity anyway. And they're trying to learn. So in some ways, like, you have to look at this, that some of these races are actually learning from us.
Yeah. I was going to say, it almost feels like they're a less evolved race. I was getting with some of the research I've done is that they can't actually they don't have procreation abilities. Like, they can't procreate the way humans can.
Yeah, I feel that they've blown it in that respect, where they don't and that's why I said there was I think there was a pathway that they were on, and they decided to go off into this pathway, which was not the traditional spiritual pathways of our organic pathways to spiritual growth and to ascension. They wanted to kind of try this, maybe because of their curiosity, but curiosity went this direction. And then they found that, okay, this didn't really work out so great for us. And now we have to figure out how to get back. And so and that's where I feel some of them are coming back to maybe get some of our DNA that you have accepted them to do that, or you aligned with them just so that they can get some more energy going.
Cassiopeia. Wow. Okay. I'm wondering what kind of information you have on Cassiopeia. I have been seeing Cassiopeian wars. I've struggled with really tuning into the whole history of it, but I kept seeing it back in the time of the Lyran Wars, or maybe around the time or before that time. I can't really pinpoint it, but I seen that there was a Divine Mother Council that was in the Cassiopeian system, and that they were the mothers of the Andromeda, spirit mothers of being available to Andromeda as she was forming or creating.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that Cassiopeia has a very feminine vibe on my end of things as well. It feels very, but the depiction here doesn't mean that all of them look like this either. But I was getting with it that they have a very creative, a very refinement about them. They have this really super refined, and to me, I kind of felt like they are the ones that don't want to get involved in any of the negative stuff. They're kind of just like it's almost like they're so sensitive, or they're so sensitive that they don't want anything. And so they do what they can to, kind of stay in that sort of creative zone and the love zone, and not so much kind of diving into, let's get into battle. That's what I was feeling. That's not their forte. Like you would say Syrians, no, they can get right in there, right? And some of the Syrians that are in battle, and Orions, but the Cassiopeians are much lighter frequency. So I don't think they really like all of that.
I just kept getting that they're so ancient.
Yeah, they're very peaceful, very refined. I get that they inspire a lot of people. So you get some of your inspirations from Pleiadian creativity, but also from Cassiopeian. They're almost like the muse, think of people that are like muses, you just get this inspiring ability to start wanting to create, or start wanting to engage in spiritual practices, or something that's more aligned with the peaceful vibration. But they're very beautiful. And for some reason, I got flowers around them, and sort of essential oils and flowers and things of that nature. So that's why I depicted some of the flower energy in there, because it just felt like they were more nature oriented and very interested in that kind of world. So, but more peaceful, not so much on the warrior side of things. There's a there's a race that I don't have in here. It's not like one I've done an image of because it's actually only recently come in. You know, I was speaking over like 20 different light languages, but I hadn't gotten any new ones for a while. But last year, I think it was the tail end of last year, I got one that came in from Spica or Spica, however some people pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting because that was coming through with a specific message that race, I felt like to me, what they were bringing through was they are coming to almost like a warning in a way for us that is really about AI technology. So I guess they were infiltrated by this AI stuff. And so they had gone through some of this where they were like a lighter race, but then they all of a sudden like had to change into warrior mode, you know, and they had to like switch into like, oh my God, we got to warrior mode, but they weren't really like that to begin with. And so that race is very similar also to the phyla, which I have also done a couple of light language, but I don't have an image on them, but they too have had to fight, I want to say turn into warriors. So I feel like some of these wars that's why I said it sometimes some of the races, it turns them from this like really light and fluffy, airy kind of people to, we got to be in battle mode. And I just think it goes against the grain to a lot of them, but some of them have had to step forward into that just to be able to shield themselves.
Yeah. I've always really liked the Spica system as well. It's funny when I've done charts and I've found a lot of Spica positions, it's always been in like celebrity charts. I almost feel like there's like some sort of like acceleration to fame if someone carries a lot of Spica, if they have like a lot of markers of it. I think
interesting.
I think you had Spica.
I did. That was like, I didn't even know that was there. You know, for me, I wasn't even really attuned into it. I think all the way back in 2019 when you did that, I think. And it wasn't until last year that it literally started to, like I said, and I just had it come through randomly, but it was more like, it was this very specific message coming through. But it was like, you know, it was like this warning about the AI technology and that we really have to be conscious of what we're doing here, because this is maybe something very similar that happened to their sector of their constellation in their world, that they had to battle this as well. So, you know, we all have to be on our toes with it, but it was very interesting that it came through because I didn't necessarily know what or had anything come through before that. And it's not even like for me when I go, can I speak a certain language, that I get it. It happens when it happens. It's not like I study it and I'm like, okay, this is, going to be this. It's really all of them came to me at different times and in different ways and at the time, divine timing, not my timing. Sometimes we have to give up our, people are like, can you speak this language? Can you speak that language? And I'm like, well, if it comes through, I'll let you know.
Well, gosh, your insights are so fascinating. I feel like just hearing you talk about it, like I'm flowing on this journey with you because I've had also my own experiences with a lot of these systems, and I can see how things I've seen and known and come to interpret is like aligning to your information. It's just so fun. I feel like I could really pick your brain for a while on this and really kind of dive into the intricacies of each systems, which would be so fun and awesome.
Yeah. It is fun and it's exciting and all of that. I think the biggest message though for people to really, because I don't like when people, and we're all Starseed that understand that they're Starseed and all that, but if we get too tunnel vision to that and only just focus on that, we miss opportunities for our own integration for, like I said, some of the angelic side of ourselves or the elemental side of ourselves, and to integrate all of it. It's all important. And these races are, although some of them are very advanced, they're advanced, Arcturians and Andromedans are like the teachers. I would say like the Andromedans always feel like the teacher energy that comes through their stream, and then each one has a little bit different take on things, but they're all advanced and maybe even more advanced than our humanity here. Okay. Or there are our mothers, our fathers, our grandfathers, our, all of our ancestors. But we have to realize too that everyone is working on their own ascension at their own way in their own. And so some of it we look at as though they're gods or something. It's like, no, a lot of them are also learning from us. And we have to remember that. It's very important that we do our work inside of here and not just be focused on ET races and that's it, because they're just another expression. But, the real work is doing it inside yourself, becoming the best person that you can be, the best you that you can be, on this planet while you're in this incarnation. And then, being here and doing the work and being a good person and all that. I think that's just going to get you further along than, focusing on one starseed, race. So I always say that just to give some breathing space, for yourself and not to focus too heavily on it. And you miss all the other things of life, that are important also for your integration. So although we focus here, but even with my reads, I don't focus just on Starseed, but I do have I don't think I've had anybody come to me that's not Starseed.
Yeah.
Unique, literally.
Have you came across Earth seeds?
I shouldn't. Yes, I was just going to say that. I shouldn't say, okay, in session work, but I also do custom art. Okay. So I'm also creating custom art images for people. And I even just had this experience recently where I created this image. And although my first thought, I'm going to create them as a starseed. That was not what was coming through. It was creating them. It was almost like Mother Gaia, Mother Nature, just this birds and nature and everything. And I don't know why I was creating these things, but I just tune in. And when I sent it to her, I was like, I don't know if she was expecting starseed stuff or what, but she was like, oh my gosh, this resonates with me because I had never really felt like I was missing home like starseeds do. And I kind of just really didn't, I guess I was thinking I was supposed to, but I didn't. And I really just resonated with all of the nature in here. And this feels like my home. And so that really is something to be said for the earth seeds, meaning like they really feel this is their home. Yeah. This is where they may have come into incarnations many, many times. And it's just they're circulating around earth and maybe they have not had other star race, experiences with other different kind of incarnations that are off planet. Mm-hmm. And maybe they will at some point, but maybe they won't. To me, it's not higher or lower, or, they just haven't gotten to that evolved level. It's really, to me, it's more about that's just what their choice is. Their choices. They enjoy it. They like it. This is what they're here. They don't really want to express anything more than that, or they tend to decide that maybe at some point in their evolution, they do want to go and experience more. So it's not like everybody here is all starseed. Not everybody. Most of the people I work with are, and probably you, because, they're all interested in this kind of content. And so they come to me. It's like they're going to come to you, and generally because they're interested in that, and generally because they resonate with that content. And so, yes, but the earth seeds are very important. And those are the beings that keep everything grounded here. I mean, we have missions. These people have missions too, to ground in the energy here. Think about if there wasn't that. I think, because we all have enough trouble trying to ground here on the planet. Yeah. And if there weren't people just here anchoring that in, because that's what they do. And they're aligned with this, with Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, the energies here of Earth, they hold it down. They're the anchor. Okay. That's really important, I feel. So not to take away from their role, because some people may be like, well, I want to be a starseed and have this mission and this whatever. And you know what? Sometimes even starseed missions are merely to observe. Okay. Sometimes people are like, they're not doing enough, or I'm not, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be doing that. Sometimes you find that your role is really more observation here. So not everybody has to be in the limelight, changing everything, doing all that. You may have a very important role of bringing information back. Through your dream time or unconscious state, you're transmitting this information about the planet, what's going on, what the energies of the planet, grid working, like grid workers, they can be starseed, but there's a lot of people that are interested in that also that are very earthbound because that's their role here too. So yeah, that's really important to, I could go on with that, but, and we could also say the same true with the angelic. Some of them are just straight from the angelic realms and don't have any starseed connections. And, they're straight from either warrior angel or, the angel energies of light and love and all of that. But they have different roles and missions here too. And they're generally having probably more challenges than anybody. The angelic nature, just think of your angelic nature coming down here and having to deal with this 3D duality. And you're like, oh my God, I'm sorry I made the decision. Can I take it back?
Indigo angel over here.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Like, oh, sometimes then I'm very into, I have a side of myself very tied to angelic. And, for me, that's the same. Like people's energies are very stressful on me as far as like the heavier, energies. And I deal with a lot, but I generally, it's a dense environment. So I like to be alone and recharge that battery. Just some of us have to have that. It's like, it's a really difficult place for us down here. I think I've gotten more of a thicker skin than I probably used to just because we've had to deal with so much, and put up so many shields, which is why I created my healing shields. One of the reasons why I created that is to help people to shield themselves from some of this bombardment of energy out here, down here, and out there, everywhere.
Yeah.
Because those fit the physical, mental, spiritual, astral, galactic. They all hit all the realms. And we've got to have these tools to work with here to help our energies to stabilize and do what we came here to do, or to just be who we came here to be, and to be that anchor. Yes. So, I know there's so much to
I can see sometimes when people come to me too, though, it's like they're getting their starseed origin read, but I can tell that they're still not maybe connecting into what the energy is or what it means. And so I always tell people, I think starseed consciousness comes into one's field perception when they're really ready to ground a mission. Like it is about building the technology, the resources, the gifts and the little things that you need to get to that next level. Like they are the futuristic intelligences that have all these little things that they can transmit to you that really help you sustain the mission. So I think once one makes that dedication to be on mission, then that's when the systems, I think, activate even more. And
I think that's so spot on. And that's very true of, even if you think about it, your intuition, I guess I was not really in touch with my own intuition. A lot of people are not when they're younger or something like that. You're just not in touch with it. It's not really a priority. You don't really, you're having experiences, but you're not taught like what the hell's going on. So you don't really make it a priority until you get into later years. You start making that intuition a priority. And once you do that, all these things start unfolding for you. And I think it's no different than the same thing when you're connecting with a star race or something, or you're into the starseed stuff and you want to start doing by the nature of making that commitment and the prioritizing that in your life, like giving it space to be there. That's when things start to happen. And when you're paying attention to everything that's going around you, of course, too, the signs and different things that come in to your reality, into your consciousness, and to pay attention to those, taking steps. Sometimes people will say, well, I tried to open up to this and I got nothing, or I tried to tune in and I didn't get anything. It's like, well, how often did you do that? Well, I just did it once for like 5 minutes, It's like, well, that's going to be a little bit, you got to put a little more time and effort into that. You're going to make a commitment to yourself to open up to your own, doorways, your own portals, and what's in there. You're going to have to give it a little bit more time than just 5 minutes. And then especially when people have not been in touch with themselves for like their whole life, right? So we have this impatience thing, like, I want it now, daddy, I want it now. And it's like, I get it. We have, I have trouble with patience myself. Like, you want what you want when you want it. But there are times where you really have to take a step back and just give it time, but do the due diligence that's needed, put the time and energy in, even if it's 5 minutes a day, but do that 5 minutes a day for 2 weeks, and see what happens.
Yeah. It's about building cosmic depth perception.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I love that. It is. You really build, and your frequencies have to build to a certain level too. You have to, raise the frequency. And how you do that is through your own behaviors, right? Through your own inner work is how you raise the perception and how you raise the consciousness and your own frequency. And once you start raising the bandwidth to up here, you start aligning with everything in this bandwidth now. Whereas if you were here, you weren't really accessing it. You weren't really in it. Once you raise the frequency up to this bandwidth, now you start accessing 360 degrees around and even up there and down below and everything that's coming in from that particular bandwidth of energy. And that you integrate that, and then you move up to different levels. Sometimes it's not really up, it's more out. It's like the different bandwidths can go in any direction here. It's not really about, just because you're accessing some higher level content up here doesn't always mean that you're, let's just say, that consciousness that you're accessing doesn't mean that you've embodied that consciousness to be that yet. Just you're accessing it. Yeah. So there's a difference too, is living it, being who you are on this planet. That's why I go back to before, being that loving strength, being that intuitive person, being that inspiration for others, having compassion and empathy for others. All of these things, we have to embody all of that. So if we're going to access it, yay, let's get the information, but let's bring it into the body here to embody it so that it makes us, more than we are. And then that also enhances us.
Yeah. Come to know it as source self.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, because there's some of these systems that won't even come in for me at all. Like, I won't hear from them for like a year until I get my frequency back in that level of transmission that Arcturians, they definitely come and go for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're really, really high.
Yeah. The Arcturian energy is like, I use a lot whenever I do activation and I'm doing my light language chakra clearings for people. They always come in the mental field for the Arcturian energies, and they do so much work on your mental field. You would be surprised. Like, they can really clear so much out of the field. I call it the mind field, like in the mind, like literally it's like explosions going off up there, in your mind field. And so they can do a lot with clearing the mind and clearing the chatter and clearing the scattered, negative, confused thought processes that are all in there from our own energy, as well as from other people's energies. So sometimes when our energy is just clouded with that, they may not be able to come in as much, but you can still ask them to assist you with clearing some of that. And one of the things, they work a lot in dream time too, and even in the astral planes where they help to clear. But that's one of their main things, as well as coming from what I call the higher heart. They're kind of like Spock, on Star Trek or Star Trek, where he's got the higher heart. People think that Spock didn't have a heart. We're like, oh, he's just totally emotionless and he doesn't have a heart. But he literally did have a heart, and he was half human. Remember, like, he was half human. So or part human anyway, where he literally had the emotions. He had more of an ability to manage those emotions than what we have down here of the roller coaster ride. Right. So it's not that he didn't have the emotions, but that's kind of what the Arcturians are in a lot of ways. They can do profound clearing in the mental space. And how much do we need that here? Like, that's like huge. Our energy fields in the mental space are just filled with stuff. Okay. Could be your stuff, could be other people's stuff, could be your past, your parents and their embedded belief systems that are just hanging out in your field, in your mental
Right.
space. So, but I think it's true. They do come and go, like depending on what you're doing. And like I said, I'm integrating the languages and the transmissions, but I don't like, it's not like every day I'm working with like 10 different, races or anything like that. And I don't really even want to do that because I think that's overwhelm, and that doesn't really, it's nice to keep the energies clear. And for me, it's more of for a specific purpose that it's coming in anyways, than it is for fun, because think about why you're doing it. That's what I would also want to get across to everybody is, why are you wanting to connect? Is it just because it's just like, oh, it sounds good and it's fun or whatever? Because if it's that, you probably won't get a whole lot of response back on the other end, because they're not really there. The higher vibrational beings, whether it be angelic, ascended masters, like star beings, star family, they're not, those beings that are on the higher levels are more interested in your spiritual growth and for you and learning your lessons here and what. They're not really there just to play around for fun.
Yeah.
Maybe the fairies are, I should say. They like to have fun.
Yeah, I really feel like there is somewhat of a seriousness and Syrian and in the starseed consciousness, once it's activated and embodied, that like it is about kind of getting busy and starting to really anchor your cosmic self here, which is different. It's beyond relationship consciousness. It's beyond the twin flame, stuff, all that stuff. This is because I remember when I first started talking about starseeds, I could feel that disconnect between collective consciousness groups of people who were like in the twin flame groups and then the people in the starseed groups. There was a lot of like emotional disconnect between that. It's like they're either here or they're here.
Yeah. Well, and we have to understand the concepts that we have. Things like twin flame can get really convoluted and everybody's got a different take on it. But, it's, and a lot of it is romanticized, overly romanticized. And it's not actually what that whole twin flame concept really is about. And it's limiting if you think about it, because if you're looking at other races, they have like this twin flame, situation going on. No, a lot of them don't. A lot of them have multiple partners and they're a little bit more open with their sexuality and everything than we are here. But there's not, they have it more like they can do that because they're a lot more, I would say, conscious about what they're doing with it than we are down here. But I think that there's concepts that come in that keep us limited. So whenever we have a concept like that, and then we have someone that comes out and starts teaching about that concept, and then everyone just goes along with it just because it's a teaching, and then they just learn it and regurgitate more, and it keeps going. And then it just becomes like a game of telephone where it was like, was that what the original message was? Or did it just get totally distorted after centuries of floating around? And now it's something that it's like not even real. Like that's not even really what it's about. So that's humanity for you, is getting things a little bit more confused than what it really, the original message was.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that's a topic of discussion. We could definitely talk about it sometimes.
On its own.
Yeah, it's a whole thing there. But I think we're getting close to maybe time. But I want to let everybody know I did send Lightstar all 6 of my essential oils line, and I was so curious as to which one you felt maybe you were most called to, and what did you pick up on from it?
My gosh, I just love these. So the first one that I really, really felt connected with was the Pleiadian one. And I started, literally, that's my nighttime bedtime spray. Like I spray it on before I go to bed every single night. And that one is it literally just takes me into like a pleasant, happy, loving like space before you go to bed. So that's kind of where but I felt like it was just bringing back that love energy and that just amazingness. Okay. So that one I gravitated to first. And then when I tried some of the others, I was kind of like spraying them all because I wanted to like see what they all smelled like first before I dove into one. individually. But the one that I have to say, there's a couple of my favorites. I would say the Arcturian, I absolutely love. And I use that now before I do any kind of, work with clients. I
Wow.
find that one is super powerful to just spray above your head. Cause as I was saying, this is the area that they work with a lot. So I spray that above my head, and it's just
I really love this
clears
one
the
too.
air. Like it literally clears it. I feel so powerful, that one.
This one
I
has
love it.
sage oil in it, so it's
Sage, yeah. So it kind of has that same feeling of sage and clearing but I like to use that one over on the top of my head area. Then Andromeda, and oh my God, well, I resonate with the Andromedan energy. So I'm like, oh, that one really, it does make you feel, it's very watery, this kind of watery fluid. But that one brought back memories for me when I started to smell that one. I was like, oh my God, I was really like intoxicated by
the
that
story
particular
behind
scent.
it is my grandmother is from Andromeda because I did her chart. And so
Mhm.
when I was trying to think of, what would Andromeda smell like,
Yeah.
I asked my grandma because I wanted to see what she just intuitively would pull from inside her. And she told me lilac.
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 Yeah. It
And
has
so
such to me, it smells very fresh. It has this super fresh, like, but more watery for some reason. I get, like water and stuff, but I really love that one. That one's like, that's like when you want that kind of daytime freshness kind of thing. I just feel like, or you want new perspectives. I feel like that one can really open up some new perspectives. And so I love that one. And then the other one, the Lyran one, I love that too. That one, I have a thing about my partner, Stands with Barrites, was telling me about. I was letting him, sniff them too. And I didn't even show him which ones they were. I just didn't tell him what it was, but I said, smell this, smell this, smell this. The one that he just like, oh my God, I love that one, was Lyran. Okay. And it turns out he's very Lyran. So it like totally fit with his star race as well. So I was like, oh, and he just like, he was like in heaven when he smelled that. He was just like closing his eyes, like, oh, it just brought him to a place of peace, like instantly.
so
So
awesome.
he loves that one. And then the other ones they were stronger. So we got the Syrian and Orion much stronger. And so at first I was like, whoa, those are strong. You really only need a tiny bit of those, like a tiny bit. And because I love clearing, a lot of times, I found that like the Syrian, because it does have that kind of eucalyptus, like clearing, if I want to clear a space, that it's like even more so than the Andromedan, or I'm sorry, than the Arcturian above the head. Like if I really want to clear more space than just above my head, that's when the Syrian one comes in. Like you want a room cleared or something like that. I feel like that one does a superb job
I've
of
noticed
clearing.
people that have been kind of going through heartbreak have been really resonating with the Syrian one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Heartbreak.
yeah,
I could see that too. Breaking through the heart, literally,
yeah,
or
yeah,
just like going through sadness and having to just clear it. But it
yeah.
does have a lot of clearing energy in it. Um, and then the last one, I think the Orion one, I think I really like to use that one because it's very cinnamon, super cinnamon, right? So that one to me, just a little bit, but when you want that kind of cinnamony kind of like it would be great for around the holidays, especially just
Yeah.
energetically because it's very cinnamon, but it's really strong. Okay. So when you want to strengthen your field or want to strengthen some energies, because it does come in with that really powerful. So I love how they're all different, how they're all unique. And I'm finding ways that I'm sure I'll probably find more ways of utilizing them. And I'll probably want to do your affiliate program too, so I can kind of get these out as well. But I love them. I think they honestly make you joyful, like, and they clear, and they'll like actually, I find myself gravitating towards it. Like if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm like, oh, I need the Lyran spray, or oh, I need the Andromedan spray. It's funny. I
Wow,
like
yeah.
literally love
Me
that.
too. Me too.
And the one thing I love about them is they last so long. My partner and I were a little bit surprised at how long, because it was like usually you have an air spray and you're like, "God, I can barely smell it." And it doesn't. I spray this thing in the air and it gets into your nose, like it gets into your olfactory scent and stays there. It stays there. Like I remember the Pleiadian, the first couple of nights I sprayed it. I'm like, I sprayed it and it like stayed all night. I could even smell it in the morning.
I should have warned you. You just need a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, it goes a long way, but they are like they're premium. They're premium oils. So that's why I
can
kind of
tell.
had to bump my costs up a little bit because the investment to create them was.
Yeah, I know that stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
But it's definitely very potent. I mean, I love the fact that they stay in your nose and you can smell it throughout like the next like hour, 2 hours. Like I sprayed it before I even did here and I can still smell it. It's still here. So I have a really, really sensitive nose though, so I can smell anything a mile away, but I love them. They bring back memories. They help with awakening. They help with clearing energies. And thank you for creating them because I think they're really powerful. And I think they could be really potent together with some of my artwork as well. You know, when you're wanting to connect, you can spray on, the energies and then you can visualize the energy or work with one of the images or something too. And that could be a whole nother system for people to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get your crystal, you get your spray, you get your art, and that's a whole system in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they're really great.
Thank you so much for just your feedback. It's literally excellent feedback. I mean, I knew that I had to get these to you because I knew you would tune in just because you are so attuned to the systems. And so I knew.
Yeah, they really do. Each one of them have very, very distinct energies that come through, and I'm sure people are going to have their different experiences and they're going to want to use them in different ways, but they are really powerful and I just love them. So thank you again for making them, for sharing them.
Of course. We're all connected in this. It's so amazing. And I just want to say to everybody watching, be sure to go check out Lightstar's channel.
There we go.
She's got so much amazing content here for activation, clearing, energy updates.
Yeah, I've been doing a DNA activation series, and so that one seems to be very popular with everybody.
This one?
DNA stuff. That's number 4. So I have a couple of them. I have a playlist on there where you can go and watch them from the beginning. It's I think it's under DNA upgrades. Yeah, the first one. So I'm starting to do that because I'm finding a lot of people working a lot with DNA, but those are some of the activations that I'm doing specifically for DNA upgrades. And they're light language activations is what they are. I think a couple of them I linked in there with Lionsgate. So just kind of the timing, but I'll probably be doing a few more of these to, help people out as well, because I think especially this year, I've been getting a lot of DNA stuff just coming in. So I'm going to be doing some more of that this year, as well as some other stuff on my channel. I do lots of fun stuff on there, but light language, I do oracle readings or oracle consciousness readings for the quarters where I'll use my cards now that I've got them blended and I'm using all of it to see what's coming up as well.
You've had your channel since 2012. Okay.
Gosh.
Wow. You've been on YouTube for a long time.
It's weird that I've been doing that long, since 2012. Interesting year that I started that too. I didn't even notice that because I haven't looked back on it.
I was going to say, because I knew I found you a long time ago. I think I probably at the beginning of my ascension.
I think when I first put out a light language video, the very first one, I had no idea. I just kind of put it out there. I didn't know what the hell, if anyone even want to watch this kind of stuff, or I just was guided to do it. It turns out there's a lot of people that like light language, and I didn't know that at the time. But I'm starting to put some more different things on my channel too, not just that, but I have a lot of other things going on there. I do some channeling. Got a channel message from Master Hilarion like every year, which is really powerful for each year. And it's funny, the one year, because that also gets printed in the Sedona Journal of Emergence. The one year that I did for 2022 was back in 2021. It was really long and they didn't take it because it was so long. And I was like, oh, that was really the most important one, but okay. And so I just do them on my channel yearly anyway, just so they're
Well,
there.
I think you do such a good job with everything that you're doing. So I love
Well,
creative mind. It's
thank you. It's definitely a lot of work. I can tell you, I didn't know I'd be putting this much time and energy into these things, but it's a lot of work. And I'm sure there's much more I could do with that. But for the moment, it is what it is. But I just, want to help people. Like I said, I've got my Starseed alignment sessions, that I can help people with too, and doing energy work and getting soul urgence readings more depth and more in depth with getting your mission and purpose and all that. I also I just started a transitional recalibration session that is for people going through transition, because I realize so many people are going through transitions. And so it's kind of a session for when people really need help going through stuff. And that's really helpful for people too. And then, like I said, I've got custom artwork, music, activation, and all sorts, and then my Oracle decks and all sorts of stuff. But a lot of things I put out, especially at the end of last year and the beginning of this. It's like, wow, I need to take a break from all the launches that just kept coming.
I know. Well, you were accelerating. You were just like, you
Yeah, I
have
was
so
like,
many
boom, boom, boom.
systems.
Now I'm like, all right,
I can
take
see
a
you just
step
have
back.
so much galactic systems that are kind of cheering you on and want their message and their stories told. So it's like it's just pushing you and pushing you.
Yeah, and I think it was, even with this deck, I have to say the celestial frequencies was supposed to come out first. It was supposed to come out May of the summer of 2022 is when it was supposed to come out, and then the second edition was going to come out way later. But what ended up happening, and that was something I really think that up there they wanted both of these decks to come out at the same time, which was not going to happen at that point. It wasn't even in the so they delayed this because the celestial frequencies got way delayed. There was supply chain issues. They had paper issues, paper shortages, trying to get this printed didn't work. So it was like months and months delay, 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 delay until it caught up to the exact time that the second edition was coming out. And now they're both coming out at the same time. So it was like this whole whirlwind that we had to go through. But I think it was because they wanted to have them come out at the same time. And so that was directed from up there. That was not anything I wanted to do.
Wow.
So sometimes we have to just give it up to the creator and these races, how they wanted it to be, because they probably wanted for people to right away to start doing this, if you want it to blend them together. And it really does make a huge, powerful deck because
Well, I love it. I would love to get those decks because I don't have them. So
well, you'll have to, yes, they're,
yeah.
like I said, just starting to ship. Well, they're shipping out now. So they are available. Before I was having trouble with getting them shipped out, but now we're wrapping up all of the pre-orders that were all collected. And so we're just this week actually getting those finalized out the door. And now, but they are available for purchase for anyone who wants to get them. They will ship usually in a couple of days now. If you order them through me, okay. If you go onto any other website, I cannot guarantee because I don't make anything off those websites, but sometimes they don't have them yet either because they're not dealing with the publisher directly. So, but they are available and they're really powerful. So highly recommend you get them.
So yeah, guys, all of the links will be down in the description for everything that we talked about today. And yeah, I just want to, of course, it was such a pleasure to have you come on the channel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. Appreciate you and everything you're bringing to the table. You do such great work for this planet. And so everybody thanks you as well from up there. All the work you're doing.
All right. Well, this concludes our show today, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.